In this video, I'd like to get into the re-triggering of kick drums. Now, I usually do this when mixing, but I do not replace the original bass drum unless it's very poorly recorded and unusable. I like to use triggers to enhance the sound that is originally there, that was played by the drummer, and not have it sound machine-like. So here is what I usually do. I go to the original kick drum or bass drum track, right-click on the mouse, and I duplicate the track. This will bring up the duplicate track dialog and show you the attributes that you want to include in the duplicate track. Click OK, and you'll see right below the original track, a new kick track shows up with the identical plugins and waveform as the original. And of course, it duplicates the plugins also. We don't need this one that we used on the original track at this moment. Let's bypass it, hide it, and play a little bit of the original sound. Not the greatest sound, but it's usable. I already have a trigger program. Let's instantiate it on the track by holding Control Apple and clicking, and bring up the plugin. This is a plugin from Stephen Slate. It's a trigger program. It's very user-friendly, triggers exceptionally well with no latency. And you'll see in this plugin there are 6 re-trigger sound banks available for you to load in, up to 6 sound triggers. There's volumes for each one. There's a pan for each one if you're doing stereo, a tuning control, attack time, release time of the sample, mute button, phase button, and a dynamic section. With this all the way down, it will not follow the drummer's dynamics. With it all the way up, the way I like to keep it at 100%, it will follow the drummer's dynamics perfectly. This just makes for a really natural sounding trigger. In this particular song, I'm using 4 different samples that get triggered from the original drum sound. Let me show you what I have going on here with the 3 sounds combined and then solo them individually. So this is all 3 triggers together. You'll notice that nice length to the low end and the nice attack it has also. Here's the third one. The last one. This one's more like an 808 sound with a lot of length to it, but this really enhances the sound the most, I believe. Here you go. You can change the length of it right in the plugin. You can tune it. Everything's very easy and very user-friendly. Here are all 3 together. Mute the third one. Put it out of phase, check the phase. Back to the first sound. More of an organic sound like this, not as much attack. Let's bring it back in and pull the volume down a little. And in this window, right up here, you'll see the waveforms going by and the transients in which the trigger is getting triggered from. These 2 parallel lines correspond with this detail knob, or really a threshold, showing you what transients the triggers will be triggered from. You also have a re-trigger knob here, which sets the interval time in milliseconds between re-triggers. I keep this up anywhere from 70 to 80 milliseconds in order for not to have re-triggers from, say, bleed from other drums. Now, if you were doing a heavy metal record or a progressive rock record where there's 16th notes, then this would have to be adjusted down to trigger faster to catch the 16th notes. There also is a sensitivity knob. Use this in lower values to avoid unwanted leakage being triggered. The detail and the sensitivity knob work together with each other. Let's play a little bit and I'll show you the difference in triggering. As I bring the detail down, you'll see it'll catch unwanted triggers. Bring it back up. Gets rid of the unwanted triggers. down, it triggers on all of them. It's a great visual tool to have the waveform shown right inside the plugin in real time. Now, for those of us who have been around a few years, you remember how difficult it used to be to trigger a bass drum without any latency. This plugin makes it super easy. Let's close it right now and solo both bass drums and blend this in to the original and tweak the sound a little bit. Take the volume down, solo the original bass drum, and have the trigger soloed. And let's play a little and then blend it in. You can really feel with that 808 sounding sample in there, it really fattens up the sound and gives it some length. Let's do a little blending here with the sounds. Let's pull back the original a little, have some more headroom. Blend in the trigger. So let's unsolo these and hear them with the band, and then do a blend. Because remember, nobody's ever going to hear the drums soloed. They have to work together inside the mix, no matter how good it sounds soloed. Sounding pretty good. Let's solo the drums together and see what it sounds like as a kit. Pretty natural sounding blend. Let's take out the trigger. Definitely helps fatten up the sound a little. Let's adjust a little bit more attack from this first one. And by bringing the volume up on this first trigger, this one has the attack, the transient. Yeah, that cuts through a little more. And you'll see there's no EQ. I did all the EQing and all the sound shaping internally in the plugin itself. Now, you could insert an EQ after this trigger and EQ the whole thing, but I really don't think it's necessary for this. And realize we just added 3 triggers to the original drum sound while keeping the human sound and the feel, so it doesn't sound like a machine. Another thing to remember when working on a kick drum sound, as we added that longer 808 sounding kick drum with length, when we put it into the track, it kind of disappeared, but it gave it a fat sound. Remember, when you add drums into the mix, the other instruments are going to eat up the decay time of it and make it sound shorter. So stay away from those really gated kick drum sounds if you want to get a really fat sound. Same thing goes for tom-toms also. Let's move on to the next video and get into snare drums.